Here's Johnny and Stewie.
Hey, Johnny. Hey, Stewie.
Good to see you, buddy.
Dude, it's the best.
Oh, man, you are the best.
No, you're the best.
Okay, let's get it on.
Let's do this.
Okay.
This is part 2 of our interview with Steve Vai, whose new record, Inviolate, was released in January 2022. To hear all about the record and Steve's 3-neck guitar, the Hydra, check out his part 1 interview. In this episode, we dive deep into Steve's creative process, where his ideas come from, and how they transform into music. He also talks about his years with Frank Zappa, his work as an in-demand sideman, and his orchestral compositions.
Hey, Steve, so the record's really amazing. It's so layered and thick and beautiful. And
thank you.
One of the things for me, harmonically, chord structures and all that stuff, where does it all start? It's so amazing when it all comes together that I have no reference point as to where it starts for you.
Well, you know, the inspiration that we get to do anything, where does it start? You know, it's a good question. It comes from the infinite well of creativity that the universe feeds through all of us. Right. That's my best guess. Right. But when it gets fed through me and I'm open to it, I try not to let any situation be limited for inspiration, because inspiration comes to us all the time in all sorts of forms. You know, I mean, especially if you're a songwriter or guitar player or anything. I mean, you get inspiration from what you listen to when you grow up, what people say to you. I think we come into the world with some kind of a psychic imprint of things that we like. We have a propensity for things that we want to learn, you know, whatever it is. All that kind of gets mixed together into an individual, and they look into the world for creative ideas. And for me, it's always been, like I say, any means necessary. I can pick up a guitar and start, you know, noodling about, and something might come up and I can say, oh, there's some energy in that, you know, or I may come up with a title. I remember I came up with a title for a song once. I was reading a review of one of my shows, and the guy called it Freak Show Excess. And I thought, now there's a good name for a song. So I said, what would a song sound like that was called Freak Show Excess? You know, so
and a biography.
Yeah. And but what I love to do the most, and you all do this, we all do it, but when you do it deliberately and you know what you're doing, it's more powerful. And what that is visualization. Visualization is our greatest tool in the creative process. It's a necessary step. All of our ideas, they start out as a thought that somehow is inspired some way, and then we create a visualization of sorts, you know? And then based on your ability to refine that visualization without allowing yourself to get derailed by your own mind, you're going to have a great manifestation.
Right.
So that's what I do. And on this last record, Inviolate, so much of it is kind of like me imagining things that are just out of my reach a little bit, but that I instinctually know that I can achieve if I put the screws to it.
Right.
Wow. You see, otherwise it's a fantasy.
Right.
And fantasies may or may not, you know, manifest. And usually if they do, they're not good enough for you, even if they're successful. The most rewarding aspect of the creative process is in the doing of it and the enthusiasm that comes along with nailing those aha moments and just bringing them into the creative process.
You know, like once that visualization happens, then is it that you start putting it together in your head, or do you go to your instruments?
It can happen in various ways, but usually an inspired idea that's tailor-made for you comes as an instant recognition. It's almost like it's just low-hanging fruit. They're built for us. And you know that they're built for us because they come with the feeling of enthusiasm. Fantasies come with resistance in them. They're projections into the future of something that we believe we need in order to feel better or to be happier. And this then creates almost like a desperation, and it's a future. And then we're kind of fighting to achieve it. And all along the way, there's resistance. There's blame why others fucked up. And there's excuses, and there's fear of it not happening. And that doesn't happen when you have an authentic inspiration. Right. In an authentic inspiration, you feel like you own it. There's not like a belief in it. A belief says, but I don't know. I believe I can achieve that, but I don't know. I don't know. And then there's all the, but an authentic inspiration says, stand back, here it comes.
Right.
No excuses.
So do you feel like when you get that initial spark, you're in songwriting mode and pre-production mode at the same time? Like, is it a thing where, or do you concentrate on the music first and then think about what else it needs?
Like I say, it can happen many different ways, but perhaps the most conventional way that it happens for me is I visualize something that I can't do, but I know I could, and it's an exciting idea. I always document if I feel like it's got some juice in it. You know what I mean? So right. Documenting, I started doing that when I was like 13, it was cassettes and DATs and, but now it's all iPhone, and I've just got tons and tons, thousands of little snippets. So for instance, some years ago, I was going to bed and I have a guitar by my bed and I fool around a little bit. And then if something comes up, you just got to grab the DNA. Do you know what I mean? So like I was playing and I just happened to come across, I was doing this. Like minor 7 flat 5 chord. I've always used to figure out, what do you do with that chord? And then I went, oh, that's what you do with it. Okay. So I invested my psyche in the atmosphere of these chords. So you can do that. And then you follow your ear. Your ear will guide you. So my ear guided me to, whoa, nice. So now the whoa and the that's nice only needs to appeal to one person, me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm not judging it. I'm feeling it. If I was judging it, I'd be like, oh, nobody's doing that. That's not gonna, how am I gonna become famous? Whatever, Right. This is the obstacles to your inspiration is your fear. So then that my ear just went, it grew, And then it's, okay, I know where it wants to go. My ear is telling me. So I fish a little bit. There it is. Mm-hmm. So like these chords, and then finally I went. And when that chord came out, I was just like, that's fucking gold, baby. That's gold, And that's all I had. Yeah. And it sat on the shelf for years.
Wow.
And it was called The Red Flower. It was just like tons and tons of little things like that. Most of the songs on this new record, Inviolate, started out I call it the infinity shelf that I keep all these snippets on because there's thousands of them. And I'll go in there and something will pull my ear. Now, I may have had just that, but I knew the DNA for the entire, all I have to do, 100 years later, I could go back and reinvest myself psychologically in the sound of those chord changes, and the song is there again, the whole thing. Now, not exactly what I'm going to do, but the atmosphere that I'm going to continue with. It's amazing. All kind of impacted in there. And then you got to just sit down and do it.
You got to do it.
Right. It's amazing.
There's something to be said about sitting down and doing it, though, because that is that's a whole different part of the process. I mean, we started talking about where the inspiration comes from, and what you're leading us to right now is then you got to fucking do it. Right. Then you got to.
Yeah, but it's not the doing there's a lot of different approaches mentally that people have to the doing once the inspiration is there. And that's based on your confidence and your desire to please yourself. So some people, when it comes time to do the doing, the mind can create a lot of defenses against that out of fear, I don't have the time. It's not going to be good enough. Why should I do it when nobody's going to hear it? That's a big one.
Yeah.
How am I going to make it? Is this a hit? These are all the things that cut at the root of your unique creative ability. Okay, so that then creates a conflict in the doing. Okay, and what it usually means is you're not ready. The enthusiasm is not great enough. So what has to happen is the level of enthusiasm for the idea needs to eclipse the fear of failing. And in your truest inspirations, there is no fear. There's only the joy of doing. You don't care about the future. You don't care about who's going to like it or what you have to change to make somebody happy. None of that. It's just you and your enthusiasm. When that is in place, there is nothing to stop you, and nothing can stop you. The whole universe will work for you by offering all of the cooperative components necessary. Right. If the universe can inspire in you a unique, powerful, enthusiastic idea, it will give you the cooperative components to manifest it. That's what it does. That's what it wants for you.
But is that something that you've learned by experience? Like it sounds like
you're learning we all learn it by experience.
Right. So,
but you have to be able to see when you're in fear.
Right.
And when you're legitimately enthusiastic. Right.
Well, it's hard for me to ever hear fear in anything you've ever played that I've heard. But I understand your point being is you have to break through that in order to present something that is truly what you want to be doing.
Trust me, I have my challenges. I have my fear. I could tell you about them, and how they've disrupted the quality of my inspirations. Sure, I've got them too. But the greatest evidence that you need is the fulfillment of your creative ideas. So if you look into your past, you will see all those great things that you've accomplished with joy, not the struggles. People believe they have to struggle. This is a mistake. Right. Okay? People believe they have to be fiercely disciplined in order to become great. It doesn't work. Right. Passion is a much better engine of creation because discipline implies fighting something. I have to do something I don't want to do, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And then, and of course, even within your enthusiastic evolution, you have to apply some discipline on certain things. But applying strict, intense discipline for a future fantasy goal that you believe you need in order to be happy will just result in depression.
Wow. That's deep. And also, it's like the enjoyment of it, right? Yeah. It's like you're doing it because you enjoy it, and you shouldn't have to be like tense and disciplined, you know what I mean, to enjoy it. You should just be open and just create.
Yeah, because that tenseness flows into what you're doing. The way you feel flows into the product you make. That's what actually flows into it.
Yeah.
And then it affects people accordingly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I always say, Stuart's heard this joke 20 times, but I was like, if I wanted to sit in a room with no windows and be tense and miserable all day, I would spend more time with my family. So when I'm in the studio, I just want to have a good time, because everybody's there, you're creating, it should be fun. I don't understand. And I've heard stories for years about certain, whether huge records or whatever, it was a nightmare fighting all the time. And great records, obviously, classic records, but I'd rather not. It should be fun. You should spend 10 hours a day in the studio with people who are creative and just have fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of the dynamics in the creative process with other people could be deceiving in that some people communicate by arguing.
Yeah,
Right.
You know, I mean, I grew up in an Italian family. You know, we're talking in the hands and going like this, and what's the matter? Well, you know, but there's so much love. That's just the way we communicate.
Yeah.
You know when you're really thinking bad about somebody else.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
there's nothing good that's going to come out. There's nothing really. You might create something powerful, but the effect it's going to have is going to be in line with the attitude that created it.
Yeah.
Right.
That's just what I noticed. And I'm
Yeah,
sure
that's great.
people say, no, that's not, well, I did this and I did. Yeah. Okay. That's fine.
Right.
Yeah.
So much of your career has been as a sideman, a collaborator. You've been brought in on so many situations. Is that a different process for you than doing your own thing?
Oh, yeah. Elements of it are the same, and elements are very different. If I'm going to be working with somebody on a project, I take into account what the project is, what the dynamic is, what the goal is, you know, the kind of energy or whatever, the kind of song, or if somebody just wants me to do a solo. But ultimately, anybody I work with knows, okay, it's that guy.
Right. That's why.
Right. We don't exactly know what he's going to do, but that's him, you know?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and unless it's, you know, for me, I have certain plateaus that I need to feel in order to feel as though what I'm doing has got some juice in it, you know?
Right.
So I adjust to the situation. I don't go in there and go, nope, that's not what Steve Vai would do, you know, on his solo record, you know?
But at the same time, if a good production move would be to call you to have you do your
and
thing.
most people that reach out to me, it's always been that way, always.
Right.
When Frank Zappa reached out to me or asked me to join the band, it was because there was something that I could do that was specific for what he wanted.
Yeah.
And when it happened with Dave Roth or Whitesnake or Crossroads or even my solo records, the labels, I never really tried.
Right.
The shit just
That's
came.
amazing.
Right.
That's great.
You know, and the stuff came to me through my career on a silver platter. And it's because of one thing. I loved playing. That was number one. When I was a kid, I had no preconceived ideas of stardom. I didn't know anything about the future. I didn't give it much thought. I just knew I loved doing this right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love not being able to play something and then working on it and then all of a sudden being able to do it. How can anything else be a better payoff than that?
It's
Nothing.
amazing.
And that becomes addictive. It gives you a sense of dignity. That gives you a sense of creative integrity and flow. And as a result of that, the successes was a consequence, you know, and that's how it is. I mean, for most people, I mean, that are happily successful. You know what I mean? The success is a consequence, and they don't really think about the money. All of that comes, you know, but it's not of course, there's all sorts of intentions that people have across the board. But the really good stuff does not come from people who are trying to make money. Mm-hmm. It comes from people who are reaching into their creative zone and allowing their unique ideas to flow in a joyful way. This is the payoff. It's the most direct thing that you can experience. I mean, if you buy a yacht, you'll experience it by looking at it and riding in it, and it's all nice, but it's different than the completion of a creative idea that comes out better than you even thought it would.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, okay, Hydra, the song Teeth of the Hydra, a yacht.
Right.
I would just take the Hydra any day.
Yeah.
Because that's like real, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe one day it'll buy me a yacht. And I don't even want a yacht.
How did the Zappa thing start? I think I read somewhere that you were transcribing his music in the beginning when you were younger, or?
Yeah, I started transcribing for him when I was 18. He wanted to try me out for the band, but I was too young. So when I was 20, I moved to California and joined the band.
So you were still in New York when you were 18?
Yeah. Well, I was in Boston going to college, but then when I started working for Frank, I was still going to Berkeley.
Oh, right. You're in Berkeley. Right.
And at one point it got to I had to make a choice, and
Right.
Zappa or Berkeley,
Yeah.
Love
That's
Berkeley, but
Yeah. Pretty good fucking choice.
yeah, that's why people go to Berkeley to try
Right.
to get a gig like that.
Yeah, exactly. So, did you learn how to read at Berkeley, or did you know how to read before?
My ability to understand music came very naturally. Nothing else really came very naturally to me, But I was always fascinated with composition. I would doodle constantly notes when I was a little boy, and then when I was 6 years old, I got a little spinet organ, and it came with little music, and I would figure out how to read it, and then I started playing accordion, like all good Italian boys.
Exactly.
So I learned bass clef, and I learned how to read music. The moment I started playing the guitar, I always spent some time reading music because I like the idea of it. I like the idea of being able to take a piece of written manuscript and have the music come out just by reading it. And there was a period of time where there was one summer at Berkeley where I left my apartment twice, and every waking moment, basically, I was sight reading or reading something intense. I really wanted to be the best reader that I could be. And the guitar is a very fickle instrument.
Oh, it's a hard instrument to read too.
It's a very hard instrument to read. And at the end of that summer, I was mediocre at best,
Right. I do a lot of orchestral and jazz soundtrack work, and always the most challenged reader on the date is the guitar player.
Yeah.
And it's not because of them not being good at it, but it's that fucked up interval between the guitar is just laid out in a non-mathematical way, I guess.
Yeah. There's various tricks and techniques that you can acquire if you're a reader on the guitar. Sight reading in a session of sorts, that's a big boy game,
Right.
But various things that start to click in that make something that's seemingly impossible start to take root is in the pattern recognition when you're reading music. That's where you start to be able to play something that you've never seen before. But what I discovered is if I take a piece of music that I had to sight read, you have to go through it and visualize at least the positions.
Right.
And the position shifts,
Yeah.
And then if you do a lot of reading, you end up not reading the music, but just seeing it.
Yeah.
This pattern recognition, because you're a reader, starts to take place so you can look at a group of notes and you don't have to look at them. You can play them.
Right.
Or turn your page.
Yeah. If it's okay if we went back to Zappa for a second, because there's so many similarities just in concept that he sounded like a lot of it was random. And obviously, when you hear vibraphone and guitar and all these instruments playing unison lines, it's not random. But I would assume that his solos were improvised, or were they written?
No, Frank improvised solos. He gave all the written stuff to me. or some other guitar player at the time.
Right.
But usually, before I was in the band, he would reserve those very difficult kinds of lines for, keyboards or all sorts of instruments. And I just seem to have this weird knack for playing those difficult melodies. So that's when he said, but Frank was an improviser.
Right.
And occasionally, in the years that I worked with Frank, it was very rare that I saw him actually perform a written guitar part.
Amazing.
Yeah.
When you were with him, were you just playing the music he was writing in those years, or were you going back and was he playing his catalog or just what he was currently focused on?
Well, he'd take smatterings of tracks from his catalog and then change them up, put them in the set. We had about 80 songs on the set list.
Jeez.
And
Wow.
Yeah, and he would write the set list 1 minute before we went on stage every night. It was different
amazing.
every night. I'd say we had 80 songs in the arsenal.
Right.
That he would choose from to make the set list every night. It was really difficult for me because I was so young. I had to just keep these impossible songs under my fingers because I never knew what song he was going to call out. And the 80 tour that I did in 1980 was Actually, I was lucky. It was relatively simple. There wasn't a lot of the crazy stuff. But 81 and especially 82, the list of songs were just, I still have like reoccurring dreams that I walk on stage with Frank after years of not playing that stuff, and he like calls out like Alien Orifice or The Black Page or something like that, Sinister Footwear. And I'm just going, ah!
Were you a fan before he called you?
Oh, big time. Yeah. Because when I was young, I was into compositional music because my folks brought home West Side Story, and I knew I wanted to be a composer.
Right.
And then when I was 12, I heard Led Zeppelin, and I knew I wanted to be a rock guitar player. And my mind just mixes these things up. And when I heard Frank, he was doing all the things that I always wanted to do, not like him, but sort of, there was comedy, there was crazy guitar playing, there was compositional music, there was funny lyrics, there was all this great stuff. And he showed me, you can do it.
Right.
You need, when you see somebody doing something, that inspires you.
Now, did I read that you're going to do a symphonic thing?
Yeah, well, I've been doing them for many years. I started, like I say, I started to compose in high school, and I wrote my first orchestra score back then. And then all through the years, some of my music that I recorded required some compositional stuff, but I always kept composing. And then back in early 2000, a friend of mine, Coda Clue in Holland, said to me, Steve, I think you're a good guitar player, but I think you're an undiscovered composer. Mm-hmm. So he commissioned the Dutch government for a grant, and we put on this series of concerts over a 2-year period with the Metropole Orchestra. And then I released a double live orchestra record. And through that period, it opened up the floodgates since then to be invited to many orchestras to perform. I've performed all around the world with many different orchestras, all my compositions. Wow. And I have about 4 hours of compositional music that I'm going to be recording. It's been performed before, and it's all symphonic. Some of it's with guitar, some of it's purely symphonic. And that, during lockdown, that was the one event that I had to keep moving. But now it's happening, we hope, in May in Holland with the Metropole, and for about a month. And then in Finland with their symphony in August for about a month, I'll be recording my orchestra music.
Are these ones you're going to play on as well, or they're just going to record your compositions?
Yeah, about half of the compositions have guitar.
Right.
And the other half are just very dense contemporary kinds of symphonic pieces.
Wow.
And when I go to Holland to record, I'm not going to be playing the guitar. I'll be recording everything and then putting the guitars on later.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm producing it, and I have to listen, and I have,
I wanted to ask you, because my brother had mentioned to us at one point that you're a fan of the 2016. And I know I have one. I don't know how I still have mine, but I've had it for years, and I use it still a ton.
I'm looking at mine right now.
Yeah,
right on.
I love it. I fucking love the mono room, the mono reverb.
Well, I told your brother, the stereo room in the 2016 is unlike. I'm sure there's something else out there like it that I don't know about, but I never came across it.
Yeah, me neither.
Nothing,
It's my
no plug-in, nothing.
It's my go-to for drum reverbs, and I just print it back into the computer, so I have it all the time. It's wonderful. Yeah. But more to the point, he had mentioned that you were very influential in the H3000 in a lot of ways. Like, you really worked with them on different effects and stuff.
Well, that was interesting. First, I was a fan of Eventide as long as I can remember. And your brother's so brilliant, I mean,
try working for him.
Yeah, well, that usually comes with the territory.
No, I'm kidding. He's the best.
But he really is one of our geniuses, Yeah. And well, I didn't know him at the time because I was young, but I'm trying to remember when it was. It was probably in the late 80s, mid 80s, when Eventide. It was Gil Griffith was working for them at the time.
Yeah, I remember Gil.
And he wrote to me and he said, "We're working on a new harmonizer. Do you have any ideas?" And I did, so I wrote a whole bunch of ideas. And like, for instance, I said to him, your new harmonizer should be diatonic. It should have nobody has
right.
Nobody has made, and they didn't even know what it was. And I explained, why, parallel harmony goes like this, but it's useless if you're in a key. You should be able to have the harmonized note follow a particular key. And why only 2 notes? Why not 7? And then why not be able to affect each note differently? And then why not be able to type in your own scale? So you can create, synthetic scale that plays harmony. Nothing like that existed. And a whole bunch of other things that I was just thinking, what could, and the H3000 was the first, I think they call it smart pitch, but that's what it is. And it was great. It was,
and
co-creative effort.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic.
And I got a whole free unit for it.
Yay!
Steve, man, so great on so many different levels.
Thank you. And thank you for all the great stuff you guys are doing.
Right on.
All right,
Steve,
guys.
thank you, buddy.
Thank you. Great meeting you. What a pleasure.
Awesome.
Me and Stewie want to thank all you Gear Clubbers for listening to this crazy podcast we do. If you can, leave a review on iTunes. It really makes a difference. And don't be shy. We love hearing from you guys on the social media at Gear Club Podcast. Don't forget to go to gearclubpodcast.com for Spotify playlists, links and photos for the episodes, and my favorite hot sauce of the month.